I talk really loud, so if I move around, but if you can't hear me, let me know. But uh, you probably were not expecting to hear a weak talk from somebody that lives in New Jersey. I've said that sometimes. People usually chuckle a little bit about that, but I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'll talk a little bit about Nichino, and I'll talk about our herbicide, pyrofluvan ethyl, which you may be more familiar with as the brand name Bennu, in range of pasture. So grew up in Pennsylvania. We lived on a tree fruit farm in central northeastern Pennsylvania. I moved to central PA when the farm was sold. So apples in Pennsylvania still exist, but not in the same way that they did when I was a kid. My dad sold chemicals growing up. He worked for a small regional company called J.C. Ehrlich, which did actually a lot of really similar things. They were turf and ornamental, and then also did a lot of industrial sites and industrial weed control. I went to Penn State. I studied horticulture, specifically tree fruit production. And I've been with Nichino for about 8 years now, working from territory sales rep in the Northeast up to director of sales. So a couple things I want to cover today. First of all, just one slide on who Nichino is. I know not everybody is familiar with who we are, so just to give a little bit of familiarity with Nichino, we do have a formulation change coming for Bennu. That is a 2025 thing, but I like to let everybody know about things ahead of time so that you can be ready. It's a higher concentration formula, so it is important for people to know that you're going to need to use half as much. I'm going to talk about that specific brand. It's called Pimlico. Talk about why we call it Pimlico. And then a general overview of pyrofluvan ethyl in range and pasture, and share some of the results that we've had from trials that we've had ongoing on leafy spurge specifically since 2018. And then once I go through that, there should be some time for questions. So this picture in the bottom, we have that hanging in our office. We were founded in 2001. Our parent company is Japanese. They've been in the agrochemical market for 95 years. So when our chairman and CEO, Jeff Johnson, when he started Nichino back in 2001, when he pitched the idea, we are a very small company. We're a very specialty focused company. He had been selling our parent company's active ingredients and licensing them in the U.S. He said, you know what, we should start a new agrochemical company. He saw this on a postcard, the big giant sumo wrestler. We're the little tiny guy in that picture. And so we hang that in our office. It reminds us of who we are. We're a fighter. We're not the biggest guy in the room. We have a very strong commitment to ongoing research. We discovered pyrofluvan ethyl and brought it to market in 2002. And we have ongoing research in fungicides, insecticides. We do a little bit of animal health with our parent company in Japan. That is not part of Nichino in the U.S. We also have a very heavy focus on specialty crops. So as director of sales, I am responsible for the U.S. We have a sales team of about 20 people. Just to give you an idea, in the Southeast, our focus crops are going to be peanuts, cotton, a lot of vegetables, citrus in Florida. The Northeast, it's tree fruit, potatoes, more vegetables. In the Northwest, tree fruit, potatoes, and onions. And then in the Southwest, is, California, Arizona, we do a lot of work in trees, tree nuts, grapes, everything that's in the San Joaquin Valley and in California. And we actually sell a good bit of Bennu and pyrofluvan ethyl in those markets as well. Take the button just a little bit too far. So the mode of action for pyrofluvan ethyl is a PPO, so it's a group 14 herbicide. There are currently 3 registered formulations in the U.S. There's the 2SC, the 2.5 EC, which is ET, and then a 4% EC, which is ETX. So ET and ETX are southern tier products, Nichino markets. They're pre-plant burn down. They're also pot defoliants. We have another 2.5% EC that is licensed to Gowan. So if you've ever come across the brand Ida, that is not marketed by Nichino, that is marketed by Gowan. Same active ingredient as the 2.5% EC. So coming by 2025, all of the 2% ECs will be converted over to a 4% EC. We're doing this because it's going to be a better formulation. We're also, it's going to be, good globally as we get more product into a container. So less containers, less impact. But really, it's because we're making some improvements to the formulation and then adding some concentration. So what does that look like? What we realized is that when we started selling Venue in range of pasture market in 2021, we are an ag company, we are ag focused. Look at our labels. When we looked at the Venue label, it has ag uses and it has range of pasture uses. So it's a big, really long book. It's very complicated. And we could have made some improvements in how we use the non-crop and range and pasture wording. So we made those improvements. We separated the brand and we said we should have a range of pasture non-crop brand, Pimlico. And then we're going to have an agricultural use brand, Venue Max. So everything will be moving by 2025 to Venue Max and Pimlico. Pimlico will be focused on range of pasture and non-crop. So for 2024, our message is Venue is the product to go with. That's the product to use. That's the product that's going to be available. In 2025, including Pimlico. We're producing Pimlico in May of this year. And so one of the reasons that we're saying go with Venue is because sometimes when you're manufacturing, you don't know that there's going to be delays. I don't want to make any promises that product's going to be available. So we want to go with Venue for 2024. There probably will be some demo material, and we'll work with our distribution partners to make sure that they have some of it so we can do a side-by-side comparison, make sure everybody's comfortable with the formulation. But really, we're not going to be selling Pimlico until 2025. So the range of pasture-specific brands. So I live in the East Coast. Pimlico down. It's the home of the Preakness Stakes. It's a turf track. See a picture there of the horses running on the turf. And so when we saw that brand name was available and that we were going to be able to trademark that and use that, I just thought that was really perfect. Beautiful turf, beautiful horses running on them. The features of the 4% formulation, so it's a lower use rate. If you're going out at 3.5 ounces of Venue, it's going to be 5.7 ounces of Pimlico. This is more for our agricultural markets, but we are very, very commonly mixed with glyphosate and glyphosate. You always have to be very careful about your mixing order, which is very clearly stated on the label. Sometimes you almost run out of tank and lose a little bit of your mix at the bottom, and then you come back in, and you're going to have a mess. Venue has to go in the tank first. But Pimlico and Venue Max, that is not going to be an issue. We've been able to solve that problem. So the mixing order with glyphosate and glufosinate has been resolved. It is an SC. Both formulations are an SC that they do mix very easily. It's just that mixing order that you had to watch. We are going to be going with a limited distribution. So as I said, Nichino is an agricultural focused company. I have 3 reps that kind of skirt the primary geography for range of pasture. So I have Tim, who was in Michigan. He covers into the Red River Valley with potatoes. He would be here today with us, but he just had twins. And so he and his wife are trying to organize a family that went from 1 child to 3 children very, very quickly. So I volunteered to come and help them out. I have Stormy, who's in West Texas, and I have Ken, who's up in Idaho. So Stormy will come up into Colorado, Ken comes east, and that's how we're kind of covering this market with my support as the overall manager of the sales group. And so because of that, we said, you know what, we need to go with partners that work very closely with ag that's very supportive of this project. So it'll be Nutrien, Wilborellis, and Helena. Pimlico is going to be packaged in a differentiated 1-quart bottle. So very, very similar. It'll be named first to the box, but the actual chemical jug will be differentiated. It'll be a different shape. Venue is kind of a square. This is going to be a round when it comes out of Pimlico. But just to help remind people that when they're mixing, it's a higher concentration. As I said, the production is scheduled for May of 2024. We may have some product available in June, but I don't want to make any promises that we don't live up to in case there's sometimes delays. Now I'd like to give an overview of PFL in leafy spurge specifically. So in all of these cases, the trial work which started in 2018 was done with the 2%. We have ongoing work with the 4% to show that it's the same efficacy with just a lower use rate. And we're specifically talking about leafy spurge. So it is a contact post-emergent herbicide. So there is no systemic activity and there's no residual activity. It's contact, post-emergent, burn down. And what we're looking for when we're talking about an application of PFL is very vegetative tissue. It's got to be green, actively growing. That is what we're going to be very effective at burning down. Our focus is broadleaf weeds that does not have, will not have any activity on grasses, which is actually a good thing in this case because while we're not controlling any grasses, we're also not going to have any biotoxicity of grasses. So the way that it is used currently in our agricultural markets is either in the herbicide strip up against trees or in the row middle, which is sometimes turf. And so the attribute that farmers like about it is that it is not affecting their turf. They can keep their turf maintained, but it will not back the broadleaf weeds that are actively growing. There's a lot of grass safety. There's a lot of tree safety. We've been using this product around grass and trees since 2002. It works by disrupting cell membranes, causes desiccation and necrosis in about 1 to 3 days. So on the target week, you're going to see the effect of the application very, very quickly. We always recommend a tank mix with 2,4-8 and 1% crop oil or adjuvant. I have 2 pictures up there just showing the application of leafy spurge. I also put some field bindweed up there. It is very rapid acting on field bindweed, but I wanted to focus today on leafy spurge. So yeah. Use the mic. They're having a hard time hearing you. Sorry. I always assume that I'm a loud talker and everyone can hear. Is there anything? Okay. I'm sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. So why Piazzle in range and pasture? So very fast acting on the target weeds. The SC formulation is an excellent tank mix partner. You can spray PFL right up to the water's edge. So when you look at the label, you're not going to see a lot of restrictions around groundwater. You're not going to see restrictions around trees. Soil type is indifferent. So it's a relatively easy to work with label. It's not a restricted use. And you have a lot of application flexibility. You can go by ground, you can go by air, you can do spot sprays, and all of those directions are on the label. And we've done and seen applications in all of those formats. I know a good bit of good work has been done with drone applications. I know Bill and his team has done a lot with Bill with drone applications. So all of the different application methods are available to you, low use rate, and there are no grazing or hay restrictions. So the use recommendation, because we're talking about menu for 2024, 3 to 4 ounces on non-crop. Range and pasture is 2 to 3.5 ounces, but I would say the 3.5 ounce rate. That is what our standard recommendation is. What you're looking for is any time a spurge is present and flowering. And the trial work that we've done has shown the elimination of the leafy spurge over 3 years. You want a tank mix, 1 pound of 2,4-D. It can be the ester, the amine, the choline, and 1% adjuvant or crop oil. And you do want to make sure you're buffering the solution to 7.5% or less at very, very high pH. It breaks down quickly, so you don't want to let this sit at a very high pH, but I think buffering to 7.5, you're going to be fine. Pimlico. So this is 2025. The only change in the recommendation is the use rate, because it is a 4% instead of a 2%. Everything else is going to be exactly the same. So when we do make the switch to Pimlico, and when Pimlico is available in the market, the only change is looking at that use rate. It is not quite half. So if you look, the 1.7, it's just the way that it worked out when we did all of our regulatory group did all of the label submissions. That's how the rate worked out to make the AI the same. So I want to just give a quick overview of the trials and demo plots that we've done with range and pasture. We've done some work with Caleb Daly. This was, I think, in 2001, 2002. That was grass safety. Dr. Jane Mangold in Montana. This is an ongoing trial. The same thing with Dr. Brian Mueller in Wyoming. That's an ongoing trial. And then the completed trial that really kicked off and inspired this project in the first place was with Phil Westra in Colorado. I'm going to show some pictures from Phil Westra's work. So this is a photo in 2018, very heavy leafy spurge population. We did applications 1H in June of 2018, 2019, and 2020. There have been no applications to this site. And I have some photos to show you what the year 4 and the year 5 look like. Very, very leafy spurge, heavy population, lots of trees in the background. So this is kind of the ideal spot for where venue has a great fit. So the control is on the left-hand side. We compared it to method in the center, and then venue plus 240 on the right. So this is the year 1 photo. This is just how we started. This is year 3. So this is the completion of the trial. Now, in the angle, you can see the method, control, venue all the way over on the right-hand side of the screen. So that's venue plus 240. This is in year 4. Where I think, yes, you see some common mulling coming back in, but where I think it looks absolutely the best is in year 5. So the leafy spurge in the center, yes, that's still there. That's your control. When you look at the method and you look at the venue in comparison, you do see that your grasses have come back a little bit stronger on the venue side. And that's because we do not have any phytotoxicity. We do not have any activity on grasses. And so that's one of the benefits. If there were trees in that picture, you would see great healthy tree in the venue plot, maybe not so much. So we're focused on leafy spurge. This is in year 5. There were no applications for 2 years, and it controlled the leafy spurge after the 3-year series. So why is this working? Focus on elimination of the seed, burning down and flowering, so that prevents the seeding. It's starving the roots because seeding is occurring when root carbohydrates are at their lowest. And so, we're putting a plant at a disadvantage. It's not seeding, and it's also not storing carbohydrates because we burn off the leaf. So it's not photosynthesizing. And then it leaves space because those native grasses are no longer competing for resources with leafy spurs. So it allows them to come back because they're unaffected by the application. These are just a couple of photos that were submitted in 2002. Just people that had used venue, weed managers that had used that venue in the market and wanted to share their experiences. So, starting on the clockwise from the left, these are applications that were made under cottonwood trees in Colorado, in Hill County, with Harv, Montana, and then which I think I just mispronounced. And then finally in Montana and Toole County, the leafy spurge that you see is where the water line was. So the treatment was made up to the water line, and then the water line receded. So we are only going to control where the application was made. The water line comes down, and you can see that there was a very heavy population of leafy spurge where the application was made. So our key takeaways. P-ethyl is a contact post-emergent herbicide for broadleaf weeds. Our focus is leafy spurge. Venue 2SC is the currently available brand. Plimigo is going to be available in 2025 and will be under a limited distribution. You want a tank mix with 2,4-D plus a 1% crop oil, and it's safe around trees, grass, and in riparian areas. And that's everything I have today. I'd happily take any questions.
Well, the LGC can use it high water table, very sandy, highly leachable area.
Yes, it is. So there's no restrictions on the soil types on the label. So it is not labeled for use in water. So you cannot spray it in water. And if there's standing water, what you're aiming for is application to the actively growing leafy spurge. And so there's no pre-emergent activity. When you apply it, it is active on the plant and then it dissipates. So there's no residual. It doesn't stay around for very long. So as long as they're actively growing Actively growing target weeds, and you're not spraying into water. Yes.
So it doesn't leach down in sandy soil.
No, it does not. There's no restrictions on the label for a sandy soil.
Question.
I'm sorry.
Like if you're spraying the surge and the powders that are refrigeration and it's within the refrigeration stride, it's kind of spraying it, but it's very still it's not an issue.
It's not an issue. No, because the PF is going to work within 1 to 3 days on that leafing spurge, and then it dissipates. So it does not hang around. I mean, so in some cases, people might say as a herbicide that is a calm because you're not getting residual activity. And that's why we try to be very clear about what it does and what it doesn't do. So there's not a residual activity. However, when we look at agricultural crops, it's 0 to 1 day, very, very short plant back interval. So you can come back in and plant right away. It's not going to have an impact on what you're planting. So in that case, there's nothing on the label that would restrict if water were to come in because it's only going to be active at the time of the application.
Are we considering smaller size containers for sale? I've seen maybe landowners later on like, I've done 2 applications for bedding, and it's like a student 3rd-year application. Hopefully going forward, using it as a tool for concierge, for these small areas of pastures, people that want to deliver their spurs and containers. Or even mix it with 240 up mix, full mix, some people purchase that way. I was just wondering if the plan for any different size packages.
So within the resources that we have and our manufacturers that we have, we cannot go into a current smaller package, which is why we're coming out with this in the quart package. Not the same exact, but similar. I do hear what you're saying, and it's something that I'm going to have to go back and work with our marketing group, but also with our manufacturing group and say, okay, can we do this? Because the capabilities, the manufacturing capabilities that we have today, our smallest container is a quart. So, I know that there are some companies that are doing a kind of a custom blend. And so we have been working with companies on saying, hey, is that something that's viable? But that's something that we can rely on a partner to work with us on. But I do hear that that's an issue, and that is something that we've taken back and are considering. Can we make that improvement? We made the improvement to have a specific brand for range and pasture and non-crop. Can we take that next step to get a package that's more workable? That would be an out year. I'm not going to promise that for 2025, but I see what you're saying, that we're talking about smaller acres and a quart that's it's 18.88. That's a big volume.
Any other questions? What's the most application grazing restrictions?
So there's no haying or grazing restrictions on the label.
0 days.
Question would be, if we want to use up our stock and menu or right size, which is that is
I don't want to pat. Yeah, so we are making Pimlico. We have a lot of venue, so we use a tremendous volume of venue in California. That's a big market for us. It's probably more than 10x. So we have plenty of stock at venue. I don't want anybody to think, oh no, I have to buy it all right. I don't want that to be the message. We are making the Pimlico. It's scheduled for May. I'm going to try to get it in some people's hands in June when we actually have it available. We're also going to make more venue at that time as well, because we know that when you're making a transition to a new formulation, you don't want to just drop, panic anybody. So venue's plenty available.
any other questions? Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you so much.
Walked out here, talking about books.